Hey everybody, happy Wednesday night. Today, September 18th, 2024. This is Across the Pitch. We are somehow having a show after a 5-1 victory in New York City. Tonight I'm joined by my two pals, Jose Nunez at Jose R. Nunez 91, and also Todd Lewis at It's a Todd's Life on Twitter. Todd, I'll go to the guest first. How are you doing tonight?
Dude, I'm doing fantastic. What a great press conference we had prior to Jim Curtin speaking, during when Jim Curtin was speaking. And I just got to apologize to these two guys, right? Mike had mentioned something about me coming on. Jose texted me, I think, at 4:30 in the morning and said, post-game show. And said, absolutely not, because as I said on my show, I'm going on vacation in a couple days. And so I wanted to record my show tomorrow, which I'm still going to do, and then get the goals breakdown video done tonight so I can get it posted, or at least posted sometime tomorrow afternoon. And after a 5-1 victory for the Union at Yankee Stadium, I don't know, a lot of energy. So it's like, how don't you go live?
You get a little itch for some Philadelphia Union talk, and the comments I'm sure will be great for the people who stayed awake. I have a nice cup of coffee right here, so let me chug it along. Jose, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. Sorry, I need to find a mute button on this. I just switched to a different client for something else for work, so I'm figuring out buttons all over again. Dude, what a game! Like, sort of missed these, right? The last time that they played something like this was, I don't know, when they had that stretch of multiple 5-0, 6-0 games, right? Like it's been a while since we've seen this team score like this, and I could be completely wrong. Regardless, what a win to watch, and that's awesome. I don't know. I'm at a loss, right? Like this is also a New York City team, and to be sort of a Negadelphia for a second, but like this is a New York City team that has not tasted victory in 8 games. Now that the Union have won, so difficult stretch for New York City.
But that's exactly the kind of teams we should be beating. Is the teams who are struggling, who are going, and it's also they mentioned on the broadcast how we went to the Red Bull Stadium, they hadn't lost there. We took care of business. Then we go, across the bridges, handle business out in New York City as well. So 5-1. There's a lot of people to talk about tonight. I know we can talk about Andrew Rick. We can talk about Baribo. Even Olivier Mambizo had a moment tonight. Todd, who was your man of the match and who stood out to you the most?
Andrew Rick. Simple as that. 7 saves. Dude was fantastic in net. Dude had his coming out game. And, somebody I think mentioned it. I think maybe it was Jonathan Tannenwald who said, he's going to have games like this and he's going to have bad moments like we saw against Inter Miami. And so, a young goalkeeper, 18 years old, he's going to make mistakes like he did against Inter Miami, where that second goal that Messi scored, he probably should have saved that. But tonight, I mean, this guy was unbelievable. And one thing that caught my attention, that maybe shouldn't have caught my attention, is just how good Andrew Rick is with the ball at his feet. I mean, he created a chance in the first half where played a long ball up to Bedoya. Bedoya flicked one to Mikel, and then I believe it went out for a corner kick for the Union. But yeah, Andrew Rick, this was his coming out party, and he needed to have a big game after his disappointing game against Inter Miami. And I think it's pretty clear cut now that for the rest of the season, Andrew Rick is your number 2. And I know Jose had asked Jim Curtin to list the goalkeepers in order, and he had mentioned before that Andrew Rick was number 2 behind Andre Blake. But with Andre Blake picking up this latest groin injury, he wouldn't comment who would be the goalkeeper for Inter Miami. And so then we find out on Tuesday, I think it was, or Monday, I forget when the press conference was, that Jim Curtin wouldn't name his starting goalkeeper. He wasn't sure, if Andre Blake would be able to play. He said that it would be day-to-day, basically. And long and behold, we see Andrew Rick make his second consecutive start and picks up his first win. Nobody's talking about that either. His first professional win as a goalkeeper for the Philadelphia Union. So congrats to Andrew Rick.
And Terry joins us, and they mentioned Rick and Glesnes tonight as their players of the match. Jose, your thoughts on Rick and also on Glesnes, who got a goal, and I can't remember the last time he even scored a goal, to be honest with you. Has he scored yet this season?
I feel like he has.
Own goals don't count. Own goals don't count.
I feel like he must have, Todd. I know you're sort of a stat person, but I feel like Glesnes should have scored at this point, considering that they've scored 17 set piece goals. That sounds like somewhere Glesnes might have put a head or a foot on something, but I'll let Todd dig. But listen, I think I'm sort of out of adjectives for Rick's game. In fact, so much was happening so quickly that I had a tweet ready saying, I think we are watching the Andrew Rick game, sort of like his coming out party to the league, that type of thing. And sure, there's so much, building them up, et cetera, whatever bullshit you want to label that in that little tweet. But like, some of the saves that he made today, I think about the one where it was near post, but he put something to stop that ball from going top bins. Never mind the one where he bails out Nate Harriel as well. And even where it wasn't necessarily him getting the touch to deflect it out or to stop it, getting himself so big in front of Keaton Parks, forcing him to have to hit the post. And fortunately, the ball bounced the right way for him. Right. And gosh, another one when he dove to punch it and got it out. And luckily, I think, as you mentioned, Glesnes was there on the line to save it. That punch is actually pretty good. I guess you could argue it should have gone to either side, not so much in the middle. But at that point, like, he's doing what he can, considering that New York City is just throwing everything at him to try to score the game and bring it closer. But overall, I think it had to be Andrew Rick with this performance. There's no ifs, buts, or whats. And sure, we can talk about Leon Flock and Jack McGlynn having those sneaky good games, etc. But like, this was an Andrew Rick performance through and through. And I haven't even checked Bot Mob yet. I'm guessing that he was probably up there in terms of like the best player of the game. Man of the match. Yeah, it makes sense. He was standing on his head. Like, it was unreal.
Well, if I can jump in here, I wanted to ask you guys a question. I mean, we're talking about goalkeepers. What about Matt Freese? I mean, he's arguably a top 5 best goalkeeper in MLS, and to see him give up the goal to Bariba where he gets a hand to it and still winds up going in the back of the net. I mean, this game was slotted as you saw the New York City social media team just hyping up Andrew Rick. I mean, not Andrew Rick, Matt Freese all week long, talking about, his save percentage and just how he's been a great goalkeeper for him. You had different people that cover New York City saying that he's been their MVP of the season. And then he comes out and has a performance like this. Are you guys shocked by the performance we saw from Matt Freese tonight?
A little bit. I mean, and also the Union have done pretty well against their former keepers. We saw what they did against the Red Bulls. Now, obviously, Freese. The one that was very surprising for me was the Gazdag goal. I mean, just slips right out of his hands. It was just inexplicably bad. And I felt bad for Matt because I was excited to play against him. I really haven't gotten to watch him yet so far this season, just from, being busy and whatnot. And it's like, man, that's a hard loss. That's a hard performance to stomach. On top of that, Jose, as you mentioned, they're not exactly in the best form either. So from a confidence standpoint from the team, it's like, when you need somebody to step up, you had Andrew Rick stepping up, and you had Freese really not having the best performance. How about you, Jose? What are your thoughts on actually? What are your thoughts on Freese and also Perea, who made a performance, an appearance today?
Yeah, let me start with Perea. I think he was sort of a non-factor for the majority of his time on the field, and that's okay. I think he had a couple of good. I could tell that he knew some of those players from practicing. I can count a couple of times where. Granted, it's Olivier Mbaizo, but he like pickpocketed Olivier Mbaizo trying to get a pass that I think that's sort of like from knowing and practicing, like, oh, he's shaping his body this way, I can stretch a foot and get a touch on it. That type of stuff of just knowing players. So, I was happy to see him. I wish he would have done more, obviously, with Philadelphia. And in the flashes that he showed when he was in Philadelphia, to me, looked good. But obviously, you, myself, and Todd are not at practice every single day to see what was going on. But with Matt Freese, man, I feel like I jinxed this man. I've been posting about him earlier today, talking about his save percentage. I actually didn't even see the NYCFC posts that were maybe hyping him up. I know I was hyping him up, and frankly, I was excited to see him because he's really made New York City his team in the way that he has played this year. And sure, in the Spanish commentating that they mentioned, even great keepers have nights like this where it just seems like everything goes wrong. But they learn from it. And Matt's young enough, and as we saw and heard during the press conference, Matt Freese was certainly in Jim Curtin's mind, having a little slip of the tongue there, mentioning his name instead of somebody else. So it was good to see Matt, and I'm just so glad, so glad with how ugly that potential injury looked. The same day of the New York Red Bull game. that nothing happened, that he had time to rest, heal, ice, whatever, and be able to play against Philadelphia. Not because he let 5 in, but because he's obviously a good player, and it's nice to see him face Philadelphia.
And listen, I'll get to T-Mac's point about Baribo and Ua in a little bit, because I think it's a good point to kind of discuss and a good talking point for tonight. But Jose, to your point with Perea, last year we thought he had some good moments, and you're like, why is he not getting more playing time? The same thing I think this year can be said about Bueno. We've seen him step on the field in short intervals and just like score goals like he did tonight, and then he just vanishes for long stretches. I was happy to see Bueno get on the field. I don't want to see what happened again with Perea happen with Bueno. I know there's been issues with Bueno possibly in training. We've had these discussions already before in the past, but to see Bueno come in and just make the most of his moment, which wasn't too long of a game, it was nice to see for Jesus. Todd, any thoughts on I guess either Bueno or anybody else that you saw on the back line?
Yeah, I thought Jesus Bueno. I mean, I don't know. It's so confusing to me why this guy can't get consistent playing time or much playing time at all. I mean, all we really have to go off of is what he did in League's Cup last year, and that's what earned him his new contract, is because of how well he played in League's Cup. And since getting that new contract, playing time has been hard to come by, and we finally saw him get caught up back again to the Venezuelan national team. Actually appeared on the bench for the first time in his career, and unfortunately doesn't come on. But yeah, I mean, Jesus Bueno is a player who I think can be a starter on, I wouldn't say half the teams, but a good amount of teams in MLS. And I think he's a very, very good bench option where he's good enough to start. And I don't think anybody's calling for him to start week in, week out for this team, but just more consistent playing time. And it was good to see him get the goal tonight. And he's a player, when he comes on, he has that little bit of fight that you saw in Jose Martinez. He's a player that's going to take no crap from the opposition. He's a player that's going to get under your skin. And you need those type of players. And so, yeah, I was happy to see Jesus Bueno get a goal, well-deserved goal for him. And it was almost a botched 4-2 counterattack that the Union didn't hit on. I mean, Sam loses the ball. Fortunately for him, the ball falls to Quinn Sullivan, and Quinn Sullivan's able to get it to Bueno. But, yeah, I mean, that's Philadelphia Union soccer right there, just hitting on the counterattack, and I'm glad that Jesus Bueno was the player to be the recipient of that goal.
Yeah, we'll talk about Sam, I think, when we talk about Baribo and Ua, because I had a couple thoughts on that as well. Todd, I know you and I texted about this earlier this week. Like, it would be nice to see Bueno at the 6, Danley at the right, and then Quinn on the left. I know we were playing around with formation and stuff like that. So, to your point, if he's not starting, which I know Frank mentioned, what if we see him start? At least more minutes, maybe some versatility, play him in different positions, see what he can do, especially if we don't have a push for the playoffs and you're kind of testing things out for next year. Get experimental with it, see what his capabilities are. Jose, I want to ask you, though, I'm going to transition to the next topic here with the front three we saw with Baribo, Ua, Daniel, and I guess we can talk about Sam, too. What were your thoughts on the offense tonight?
Very good. Obviously, they benefited from mistakes. Thiago Martins' mistake is unbelievable. That's again, I joke about it, but it's so true. That's a mistake I see on Sunday League in my adult soccer. That is a really, really poor mistake for a professional soccer player to make. I can say that confidently. But you still have to give credit, right? Because Ty made the most out of that specific opportunity, finding Mikel and Mikel calmly slotting it in to the right. Not much else you can really say about Ty. Continue to score, continue to assist, find ways to be involved. Again, I remain puzzled, but there must be a reason why he wasn't playing when he wasn't playing. Mikel, glad to see him score, go out there and run. His touch is horrific. It remains horrific. I have a couple of just examples in a folder in my tablet here ready for whenever he decides to leave, and I can just show, well, maybe it's a good idea that he moves on. But getting him going is great. But man, I really, really, and I think everybody in both, press hat on and fan hat on, it would be great to see Sam Adeniran get going here, going into this stretch where you need scorers and someone's going to get cold, and hopefully there's somebody else who's going to get hot. I can't feel comfortable, and I'm talking as a fan right now, can't feel comfortable relying on Ty Baribo to be on the streak, which is unbelievable and almost historic for this team, right? That at some point it's just going to flame out, and that's totally fine because he's done plenty of lifting this year already in his short time that he has been afforded. So seeing someone like Sam get going is going to be so necessary if this team is going to sneak into the playoffs this year. And really the results were tonight almost perfect for Philadelphia, minus that Atlanta draw there at the tail end of their game. So getting Sam going is going to be one of the biggest challenges this year for Jim Curtin. Is just how, I mean, there was that one chance there towards the end, right, where he kept on running, had sort of like a player on his right side, and somehow the ball just trips up in between his feet, and there goes the play goes dead. It's just like, oh, can you use your body a little bit more? Like, can you figure it out? Just score something and get moving. But I don't know. Alas, I'm rambling. Just getting Sam going is going to be key for this team if they're going to do anything.
Sam going, but also as again T-Mac mentioned earlier, having Baribo and Ua have that connection continue to build. I mean, we didn't get to see Baribo with Carranza. We know that's a big like what if for us. We obviously saw the connection between Ua, Daniel, and Carranza over the past couple of years. But this new pairing, I mean, to me personally, I think Ua is the most clinical he's been with us ever. I mean, he's having a really strong couple months, and it's the finish that he had on his goal was just like it was across his body. It was a perfect pass by Ty, by the way, but he just looks so confident on his first touch now, and I think he's had a few goals now off a one timer, which again goes to confidence from a striker. Todd, same question to you. Thoughts on Baribo, Ua, or anybody else on the offense? I guess Sam is kind of the hot topic guy tonight.
yeah. Jose hit on everything with Sam. I don't want to turn this into Sam and Dinneron topic.
Yeah,
but Mikel Ua, he's been fantastic, and yes, everybody's going to talk about Ty Baribo, the praise that he deserves. 15 goals in 17 games now, something like that. I mean, it's insane. But Mikel Ua, 3 goals in his last 3 games. This is what you need in a DP striker.
Yep.
And Jim Curtin, we were there, Jose, where Jim told us he wants to stop having these conversations every other game where he's not challenging Mikel to have these type of games. And I don't know if Jim Curtin's still having those conversations or not. Maybe he is, and maybe that's why he's scored in 3 consecutive games. Whatever it is, I mean, he's finally found his form, I believe, and I haven't looked this up. I believe this is his first time, though, in his Philadelphia Union career that he scored in 3 straight games. So big congrats to Mikel for that. And I'd be curious, too. I don't know if Kyle's in the comment section. I mean, I try to go on Football Reference. It seems like their website's down right now, so I couldn't check that. But I'd be curious to see if Mikel Ua has ever scored in 3 consecutive games. This might be his first time ever in his career. So for a striker that's, taking a lot of stick from this fan base.
A lot.
You're seeing him, in my opinion, he's been very involved with getting assists and the link-up play, maybe not so much the goals. And a lot of fans don't give him credit for that because, no, I get it. You paid $2.8 million for this guy. He's your highest paid player. You expect him to score like he's scoring now. But at the same time, Mikel Ua is a low-end DP in this league.
Yeah.
And I think if you ask a lot of teams, the production the Union are getting out of Mikel Ua, they would absolutely take him. And yes, I know he has the DP tag and everything, and people get fixated on that, but he's doing exactly what you paid him to do. If he was supposed to be a Chico Arango or Diego Rossi, then you would have paid even more money for that type of player. But I think he's a $2.8 million player, maybe a little bit less of a player, and he's giving you exactly what you paid for. So it's going to be key for the Union. And I said this a couple weeks on my show. I said Mikel needs 5 goals in the last 7 games for the Union. I believe I said that after the New York Red Bulls game. And so far, he scored in 2 more games after that Red Bull game. And he's scoring against teams that he scored against in the past. And I think Mikel staying hot is going to be big for this team going forward. Ty Baribo being consistent for this team going forward. Daniel Gazdag scoring, being consistent. This is the first time that those 3 guys have scored in the same match together, which is not surprising because Ty Baribo hardly played in the past, and it was always Julian Carranza in there scoring with the other 2 guys. So maybe we're starting to see the chemistry between these guys just get better and better, and I think we are seeing that. And since the summertime, Ty Baribo has been in this fantastic form, and so I think the Union are really, really going to have to hone into those guys staying in this form if they have any chance of making the playoffs. Because if I'm correct, the Union are still out of a playoff spot right now. Atlanta, they're in the playoffs.
They're in the bottom spot right now.
Okay, Yeah, I mean, you have DC United on Sunday. You got to win that. Then you have Atlanta United. You got to win that. And a big key reason for the Union to go far in the playoffs, to get in the playoffs, has to be because of that front three. And if they can continue to score like they are, I think this team's going to be okay.
And when you think of Todd, you make a good point. The financial side of things, like how much Michael's getting paid. If you combine the two salaries between Baribo and Michael, and then compare what their production has been lately, I mean, most teams would take that hand over fist. It's a great production for the amount of money you're spending between those two players. Also, one thing that I liked the most was the fact that they're just trying to get the ball in the box. We saw that with Olivier Mbaizo's header into the box. We saw that with McGlynn. He kind of chips it into the box on that one goal that I think bounced off Free's hands. And how many times have we said, Jose, like just put it in the box, just take a shot, just try something to spark some offense. And tonight it benefited in their favor. But also, Todd, kind of going back to Baribo a bit and Ua, I'm not trying to compare to Carranza. We saw Carranza miss a handful of sitters, right? It just seems like Baribo and Ua just are not missing the easy ones anymore. Like they're just putting them away, and they're punishing teams for making mistakes. As Jose, you mentioned that terrible mistake that we saw on the back line for the Ua goal. So Jose, any thoughts on the surrounding players outside of the big three, and maybe on the midfield that you saw from tonight?
Gosh, I mean, I would say Leon Flock. I mean, I gotta figure out what they're gonna do with him. Whether he actually wants to stay, whether he wants to go. The options are limited. I sort of pontificated a little bit on it today. You know, he has 3 options, technically 4, but he can either stay in Philadelphia, he can move abroad come January, or he would have to go through the re-entry draft and sort of let luck take its place and see where he lands in MLS if he doesn't want to stay in Philadelphia. And I guess the final one and whatever, he's too good for it. He could go to USL, but obviously he's not going to do that. So neither here or there. The Union just need to figure out what they plan on doing with him. I can't remember, and Jim sort of alluded to it today, Todd, in his press conference. What is he on salary wise? He is like $200,000, I think.
Leon?
Yeah, it's very cheap.
Pulling it up right now.
Does Makanya make more than Leon this year?
I think it's pretty close, or maybe he's 300,000. It's.
Who,
I mean,
did you say makes more than him, Mike?
Makanya.
Does Makanya make more than Leon?
Makanya does
250.
Not.
Or 260.
Leon makes 314,000.
That is very cheap for a starting caliber number 6 in MLS. That is unbelievably cheap for someone like him. So, if the Union want to keep him, they're going to have to bump that salary. It's just, we still have no idea what Danley's on. He's not a designated player, but he's also not a TAM player that they're buying down in any way, shape, or form. So it'll be interesting to see what he lands on for salary this year, and it might be, I mean, like any contract, they're probably backloaded, right? They continue to increase as they gain more time with the team. So my last comment, Mike, sorry to drag it out, is just fine. Leon. What the team does with Leon, he's obviously still productive. Mm-hmm. He has an opportunity to cement himself as the number 6 now that Jose's gone. It's just, does he want to stay here, or is he homesick? Does he want to go to Germany? Like, what does he want to do?
I mean, that's also the question with the depth that we have in midfield and the options for next year. I mean, I'm assuming Bedoya comes back for one more year. Cavan obviously is still in the picture. Quinn, McGlynn is still in the picture. Bueno obviously still is on contract for another year and a half, 2 years, right? Bueno.
He just signed a new contract this past off season for 3 more years. Todd, I actually have it in front of me.
Contract through 2026, option year of 2027.
Now, Jose, we've mentioned wanting to see Danley on the more of that on the right hand side of the diamond, but if he is going to be the 6th, which is what he's been playing so far, I feel like the right on the wall for Leon is like, maybe I should just go elsewhere.
Yeah, but Danley is just so dynamic. Even in watching him, the bit of Haiti that I watched this weekend, like, yes, they used him at the 6 from time to time, but when he got to the sides of that position, he was just up and down, shuttling, full of speed, full of energy, making things happen.
But we saw that with Jose Martinez, and Jim Curtin himself has said, "Oh wow, yeah, I saw him on the right hand side there," and then he just never put him out there. So I'm just saying, I'm a little concerned for the fact that there's just a log jam back there with at the 6.
So
But
my question, sorry,
yeah,
Mike,
go ahead.
cut you off, is looking at Jose Martinez, what he was making when he was with Union. He was making $674,000. Like we mentioned, Leon Flock's making $314,000 this year. Put your GM hat on. I mean, what do you think is a fair contract for Leon Flock? I mean, I don't think $500,000 is what the Union should be paying him. Who knows what Leon's asking for? Around the 350, 400 mark, in my opinion, is probably what the Union should be paying Leon Flock. But going back to your point, I think Leon's not even a 6. I think he's best as an 8, and he said it multiple times to us in the past where he feels more confident playing in a double pivot if he has to play as a 6 than a lone 6. And so, do you pay $400,000 to a guy to be a bench option? Because I think Danley goes back into the 8. I think you bring in a new 6 next season. We're talking Jack McGlynn, if he doesn't get sold this winter, he's still probably going to be starting. So I'd imagine you'd have Jack McGlynn on the left. You'd have Danley on the right. You need a new 6. Yes, Leon Flock can fill in there. We were just talking about Jesus Bueno more deserving of playing time. Alejandro Bedoya, we were talking about, should be back next season. He's played a lot of games this year. He's made now 12 starts, I believe, for the club in MLS play, which I think at least I'm shocked. I don't want to speak for you guys, but I'm shocked that he started that many games just knowing his age and just looking at all the chances that Quinn Sullivan's been given. And before you sold Jose Martinez, it seemed like you had pretty good depth in the midfield. And we've seen Alejandro Bedoya just continue to get a ton of game time with this team, which I guess maybe speaks to the credit to him for how sharp he's been offensively for this team. And yes, I don't think he's as quick as he once was, but I do find it a little bit shocking that he's played as much as he has, especially starting.
It's a credit to him, but also I wonder how much that is maybe not fully trusting the people below him, around him, to take that position. Because again, Todd, you and I texted earlier this week. Quinn Sullivan started this year just red hot. And after the Olympics kind of came around, he started dipping, and he disappeared for a good chunk of time this season. And then he got put up striker, which was obviously not working for him. So, again, for Leon, I have always said I would prefer Leon as like that Warren Carval type player. Just come in, finish the job, be that defensive stopper. And I don't think you pay that much money for that position. I think what he's making now is okay, is fine. I don't think the fans would want to see him making 500,000.
But I don't think the fans know.
Well, yeah, going to be asking for a pay raise. That's for sure.
Of course he is. Jose, what do you think?
No, I don't disagree with you, Mike. I just don't know. The fans don't know what these guys are making. We try our best to educate them and give them as much information as possible. I think there's just, I don't know. And again, maybe going back to Jim's comments from today's press conference, Leon is very much a Philadelphia type of player, right? Like I hate to use the whole gritty and that type of bullshit to describe a person, but like he really is like the type of guy who puts his head down and just runs. I mean, shit, man, like I keep on thinking of those seasons prior to the Apple TV deal where like they would show the stats of like distance traveled by player and it was always Leon. And I'm thinking to myself, how does this guy have like 7 lungs in there? Because he's just always running, covering ground, covering distance, making up for Brandon Aronson going up, etc. Like he would just do it all. And obviously his role has changed in a way since those departures and changing and players that are there. But he just sort of really does embody what Jim wants, which is somebody that he can trust to just clear that shit out.
But at the same time, and I think a lot of players have, not blood players, I'm sorry, a lot of fans have mentioned there's certain, like Flock's shortcomings are obviously his offensive game, right? He's not a Jose Martinez, even a Bueno type player. On the flip side, for McGlynn, people know how he's great on the ball, he's great passes, great vision, great IQ, but he's not the best defensive player. So it's like if you could just merge those 2 players into one, you have a top player in MLS. So I as much as I like Leon, I would like to see more of a two-way player in his role, like we did with Martinez, or even going back to Montero, and having somebody who's just more well-rounded on both sides. So I don't know. I like Leon Flock, Jose. I 100% agree with you. It's important to have those types of players in the locker room. I just don't know if he's going to be around next year, and especially not for the price that he's probably asking for. Regardless, we can talk off-season soon enough. Let's talk about the week ahead. We have two very important matches. We got DC United on Sunday, and then we have Atlanta shortly afterwards.
Oh, that's right. It's a Sunday game.
Yes, we are currently above both of those teams, and both of those teams have to come to Chester to play. Scale of 1 to 10, Todd. How confident are you that we can take 6 points over these next two matches?
Ooh, 6 points the next two. Wow.
I'm going big. You got.
Wow. I think they beat DC United, but man, that Atlanta game's scary. I mean, they came back and drew against into Miami tonight, right? I think that game ended 2-2.
Yeah, that goal, the second goal was sick, by the way.
Yeah, Marichuk, the new signing from Atalanta.
Yep.
Man, I don't know. I kind of want to say 4 points, but I don't know. I could see 3 points. I don't know. I'm more confident with this team on the road than I am at Subaru Park, which is like crazy to say, but for whatever reason, they haven't been good at home, and I'm not confident that they'll get 6 points. And I don't know. Is anybody else in the comment section confident? I mean, the Union just put up 5 goals. Like, we should be confident, but this team at Subaru Park scares me.
We put up 5 goals, okay? But let's not forget that Rick had to play the game of his life tonight. Nathan Harrell made a pretty bad mistake. The post inexplicably saved the one shot when Andrew couldn't get to it. There were times in this game that we were definitely fortunate to have gotten 5 goals and fortunate not to have given up multiple goals, similar to the Red Bull match. So maybe luck's bouncing our way. But for me, yes, it's 5-1 on paper. It's great, but visually, I'm not as confident as that score should make me feel. I'm thinking on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm like a 5 that they score 6 points these next 2 matches. I think it's going to be 4 points. I think you draw against DC, and I think somehow you beat Atlanta in a shootout. I don't know why. I'm just guessing. Jose, what do you think?
I actually flip what you're saying. I think they beat DC and then they draw Atlanta. But and this is where Todd's comment may come to haunt him at the end of the season, right? Like there is a world. There are 2 possibilities here where the Union, and I don't think there's an in between. I don't think that the Union barely sneak in. It's either they really make it into the playoffs or they don't make it overall, because there is genuinely a world where New York City continues to play as poorly as they have, and they sort of put, goose eggs the rest of the season. There's a world where Philadelphia, if they win 3 straight, maybe even a 4 out of the last 5, they can jump over New York City FC all the way to the 6th spot. Or it could go terribly wrong and they end up below Atlanta as like a number, like an 11th or God, even a 12 out of the 15 in the conference, which is fucking pedantic at best, right? So I don't know. What do you do with a coach that doesn't make the playoffs in a playoff format like this, where 60% of the teams make the playoffs? It's an interesting question, and it would be. This would be I think this has to be like the biggest drop off in terms of like team history. Maybe what was it, 2011 when they made the playoffs the one year and they lost to Houston on the road, I think, on the second game, and then they like completely plummeted the following year in 2012 or whatever.
And somebody on the show said if a coach doesn't make the playoffs, they should be fired. So
no, wrong person. It was Todd.
It was me.
So just to kind of give people like an updated standings, obviously Miami is number 1, Cincinnati, Columbus are behind them by about 10 points or so. So the Red Bulls are at 43, Orlando's at 41, NYCFC is at 40, and then Charlotte in 7th place is at 39, and Toronto's at 36. So you could hop Toronto. To catch NYC, you really have to be cooking though for the rest of the year.
And you need them to drop points.
you have to. So let me again. We're going to go to the schedule here. We have 2 games to end September at home, and then you have 3 games, 2 on the road, 1 against Cincinnati in October. If you want to hop NYC and everybody else drops points, you probably have to win 4 of the next 5 games. I mean, I don't think there's a question. You have to go 4 wins and a draw to do that. And I just don't think the Union are going to do that. I don't think they beat Orlando in Orlando. I think they probably draw that one, especially on a Wednesday.
They're good on Wednesday. They're good on Wednesday, though.
Yeah, but they're also going to the road, and then they go to Columbus on Saturday, which is a great revenge spot for them. Back in Columbus, so I don't know. I'm not too optimistic about it, but Jose, I definitely I don't want to get overly hopeful though, because that's a problem. Is that like I get excited to go make the playoffs and they just let us down the first round.
And then the other question is, Mike, like I'm all for the team making the playoffs and advancing because you just never know what's going to happen. You're a big tournament guy, Mike. You know this. You never know what's going to happen. You just play the games that are in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, like, what can this team realistically do in the playoffs, right? Like, win on the road in the first round and then lose two games out of the 3. Like that's tough. Is that really what the goal is? And obviously the goals have changed drastically since the beginning of the season, where I think MLS Cup was obviously the main goal, and now, as we heard from Jim Curtin multiple times this season, it's to just barely make the playoffs. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting, especially with this convoluted, overreaching, super extended MLS playoff. Got 50 some days of playoffs, basically. I think that's how long it drags out.
It's so long, and the problem is, I mean, listen, and Todd,
that's what she said.
I know we joke about the whole coaching thing, but if the Union don't make the playoffs, the thing that saves Curtin is Blake being gone. That's that. I mean, that's what it's going to be. Oh well, Andre Blake wasn't back there. The defense couldn't get settled with Semway and Rick and all that kind of stuff, and that is what's going to make his seat less hot. Although I don't agree with it, because at the same time, what's 100% on Curtin, at least in my opinion, to some extent, is the fact that Brebo didn't play for 40% of the season. So it's you're very much like what outweighs what in terms of the blame game. But regardless, the Union have 2 games ahead of them. On Sunday, will both of you guys be there, Todd or Jose?
I'll be on vacation.
You'll be on vacation. On vacation, Todd.
Yeah, where are you? Disney again?
That's January.
Oh.
Yeah. So funny story. I rewatched that episode. I mean, I cannot believe that we had a show when I was in Disneyland, and I just found a table in the food court. I was like, dude, this is like pretty savage, and the audio actually wasn't that bad. Like, it was a good show. I had fun when you guys invited me on. I'm like, probably will never do another show in an amusement park, especially Disneyland. But yeah, it's cool that will always be in the archive. So yeah, I actually went back to watch that episode a couple of days ago. It's funny that you bring that up. But yeah, I'll be in South Carolina, Myrtle Beach. Well, I guess technically Myrtle Beach, but
look at you, just a man full of trips and vacations.
Yeah, and then the following week I'll be in Columbus. So
to live like Todd Lewis, one can only dream. Jose, you said you're gonna be there Sunday?
I believe so. I need to double check some stuff. My wife is going to the Post Malone concert on Friday or Saturday, and then just sort of figuring out when she's coming back and just making sure she's home. So just busy time, having just gotten back from Ohio, which I never want to go back to again unless it's like a soccer stadium. What an ugly state.
That's what I hear. And Valor makes a good point. Ellie will be back for DC. Obviously, Kai avoided a yellow ton. And congrats to Kai Wagner. Got 50 assists, excuse me, for his Philadelphia Union career. Listen, we have a lot to discuss, a lot of good, a lot of bad. Overall, it's a positive night. You beat one of your rivals 5-1. It was a good performance, offensively speaking. Defensively, we still have some concerns. And to your point, Jose, if you go in the playoffs, is Blake going to be 100%? Do you trust Rick to have steady performances week in, week out, or match in, match out in the playoffs? I don't think so. I don't know. It's a lot to discuss. We'll worry about that for another day. Todd, actually, Frank asked Blake's status. As of right now, he's day-to-day, isn't he?
Yeah, and I guess that's something that somebody should have asked after the press conference. I thinking back to my question I asked Jim Curtin about how the Union have different ways to score. Like, I should have just sent a simple one out there since Curtin never really answered my question. It should have been like, how close was Andre Blake or Danley? But yeah, I went with a question that never got answered.
I hear you. Well, either way, we maybe ask on Sunday if they pull out a win. Todd, it's the free kick pod, and it's a Todd Life for Twitter. Anything coming up for you in terms of things that people can follow with your content?
Yeah, goals breakdown video sometime tomorrow. I'll go live on my show on YouTube, youtube.com/freekickpod. And that's pretty much it. And then I got to figure out, I want to record when I'm on vacation. I mean, that's what I've done the last couple of years. Jose and Kyle Almany were, I don't want to say fortunate, but yeah, of course they're fortunate to join my show. No, I was fortunate to have them join me. So last year when I recorded, so that was pretty cool when I was on vacation. But I don't know, the Wi-Fi kind of sucks at the house, so we'll see what the Wi-Fi situation's like this year.
Absolutely, Jose. Anything you got working as of right now?
I'll probably write something about tonight's game. Obviously, an exciting one with all the goals and all the action, but probably start speculating a little bit about what the offseason looks like with some of the moves that the team could make, and just totally speculating. Obviously, a lot yet to happen. But to this point, Mike, you sort of mentioned with Kai hitting 50 assists, Jillian on the same day I spoke with Jose Martinez before he departed. She sat down with Kai to talk about, sort of his time at the team, et cetera. And I believe that the idea of being so close to the record was a topic of conversation. So make sure you look for Kyle or Jillian's feed and take a look at that article. Pretty well written. Nice little interview.
Speaking of Kyle and Jillian, Kyle mentions a new episode of The One Team We Agree On coming out as well this week. So check that out for sure. I'm sure it'll be another great episode. They're doing some great content for both Union 1 and 2. But we're across the pitch. Thank you for doing our post-game show. We'll try to have one Sunday. I don't know if Jose, you want to do one from the stadium, but I'll see if we can swing one on Sunday night. Otherwise, everybody, thank you for joining. Go Union.